America is a country that seems to be absolutely mired in endless, interminable legal and judicial battles. And this matters. It matters for two reasons. Firstly, because the rest of the world looks on and thinks, what on earth is going on in this great country? What on earth is happening in the leader of the free world? And secondly, because if this goes wrong, here in 2024, in election year, the judicial process carries the risk of causing huge civil disorder. So frankly, the stakes could not be higher. So what on earth is going on? Well, who better to join me than Alan Dershowitz, famous lawyer, and of course for many, many years, professor of law at the Harvard Law School. Alan, it does seem that more time is spent discussing legal actions and potential legal actions than getting on with debating the future of America and the free world.
Well, that's happened since Alex de Tocqueville wrote about America in the early part of the 19th century. He said America was mired in legal disputes and arguments, but better have these in the courthouse than on the streets. Right now, we're in the midst of civil disobedience, a real insurrection being taken place on the part of the anti-Israel radicals. They're blocking access to train stations, to bridges. They're trying to bring down the U.S. government, claiming they're doing it in the name of the Palestinians, but they're not. They are extreme radicals who want to see the United States government overthrown, and they're using the Palestinian issue as an excuse. But we're in the midst of a mini insurrection right now.
No, okay, I take that point, and I worry that certain legal actions could lead to more civil disorder. But sticking on this particular theme, it has become almost fashionable. I hate to say this, but it has, on both sides of the Atlantic, for some in senior positions, especially those in academia, to almost have an inbuilt prejudice, bias in favour of the Palestinian cause to the detriment of the Israeli cause. And I have to refer, Alan, to the recent case of Claudine Gay. I mean, here was somebody in a very senior position at Harvard. I mean, how can somebody who absolutely refuses to say that genocide against Jews would only violate Harvard's rules depending on context, how does someone like that reach the top of academia?
Because of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, people are no longer picked on the merits based on meritocracy. They're picked on identity politics, and she fit the identity politics. She was a woman, she was African-American, and she was a strong supporter of DEI. But I have to correct you about one matter. This has nothing to do with Palestine or the Palestinians. This is virulently anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. The Palestinians are a sideshow. Most of these people don't know the difference between the Palisades and the Palestinians. They wouldn't know which river and which sea was referred to from the river to the sea. These are a bunch of hard left ignoramuses who see an opportunity in the Israel-Palestine conflict to jump on board and attack the United States, Western democracy, Christian Judeo philosophy, and become part of this kind of disruptive activity all over the United States and in parts of Europe. But it has nothing to do with the Palestinians. The Palestinians are hurt more by Hamas than Israel is. If you want to help the Palestinians, get rid of Hamas and introduce maybe some democracy in the Palestinian Authority instead of a kleptocracy run by Hamas.
Well, I would agree with that. The only problem being, of course, there is a risk that if you introduce democracy in Gaza, they might vote for Hamas.
They would. And that is a great risk. That's what happened in 2006. When Israel left Gaza, and Gaza could have become Singapore in the Mediterranean. All the money was being poured in to help the people of Gaza, and it was all stolen by Hamas and turned into rockets to use against Israel. We live at a terrible, terrible time when falsity reigns, when the truth has no role, when nuance has has disappeared, and it reflects itself in so many different ways in the United States today. We are today, as Europe was in the 1920s and 30s, we are today at the forefront of bias, bigotry, hatred, division, and it's going to spread around the world.
I mean, what was remarkable about the case of Claudine Gay at Harvard was it wasn't even her comments about Jews that got her fired. Ultimately, it was plagiarism, and I find that astonishing.